Something sinister is going on at Caledon University. What were Thomas Caledon's true intentions behind founding the campus? Is the Abraxas Society a cover for a cult? Is Maya Okada who we think she is? Is this whole thing a trap for Max? Well, allow me to answer these questions. Hey guys, welcome back to another theory video. Today I wanted to go over the secret lore of the Abraxas Society and what we can expect to see from it in Life is Strange Reunion. There is so much information to go over, and my next video actually ties into this one a little bit, so keep an eye out for that. This video is going to be broken up into two parts. The first half of this video is going to be the lore on the Abraxas Society, and the second half is going to be what I think is actually going on at Caledon University. I'm really excited for this one, so let's dive right in. How did I get started on this theory? In the reveal trailer for Reunion, there was a bunch of crazy shit going on, all of it pointing towards the Abraxas Society. Also, why is that so hard to say? We should have picked a different name for that. And keep a count on how many times I say society in this video. It's going to be a lot. Let's start with some background on the society. In Double Exposure, we got very little information on the origins of this society. All we know is it's the most well-established society on campus. We know that Vin is the president of this society and pushes the society to be focused around networking. Damn, I really put a lot of societies in this. Diamond wants to take Vin's position for being the leader and make it more about radical art. The only confirmed members we know so far are Vin, Diamond, and Reggie. Reggie is actually the one who gives Max the wooden puzzle box after failing to open it himself. To solve the first layer of the puzzle, you have to interact with the Eye, Thomas Caledon, and the Crow. After solving the puzzle's first layer by melting some wax and putting the bird on his shoulder, a second box is revealed. You solve this puzzle's box at the end of Chapter 2 by yourself. Once you open it, an Abraxas Society pin falls out. At first, this was a disappointing prize after spending so much time to solve it, but now it's starting to make sense. Max jokes about it, meaning that she's now part of the society for solving the puzzle, but during Chapter 3, you can see this message that Max receives from an unknown number, congratulating her on solving the puzzle and announcing that she is now part of the society. How they knew that she opened the box is beyond me, but this is all setting us up for the plotline in Reunion. Going back to the reveal trailer, we see this very ominous vacant house that we have not seen before until now. I believe this house belongs to the Abraxas Society, which is likely where they hold their meetings, if that's what you want to call it. The bits of the house that we see in the trailer are shown here. The more interesting location we see is the basement. In the basement, we see Loretta and Max exploring it when a demo team arrives to detonate the building with them both inside. If you look closely, you can see that there is a shrine on the wall and a seance circle underneath. There is definitely some weird shit going on here, but we'll come back to that later. I think somebody is trying to hide something in there. That would explain why they are demolishing the building in the first place. You can argue that the building is being demolished due to safety reasons, and that's just what they do with old buildings, but from what we saw in the trailer, it seems to be in great shape. Even lived in, perhaps. Well, until it got obliterated, I mean. In the trailer, you see a guy wearing this mask exploring the house with a sledgehammer. Two key things about this. Why does he have a sledgehammer, and why is he wearing a mask? In Double Exposure, it's hinted that not everyone is too fond of the Abraxas Society. In the reveal trailer for Reunion, we get multiple glimpses at people's hatreds towards the society. Here you can see the observatory is boarded up and graffitied. The graffiti says "Stop the lies," and more importantly, "Down with Abraxas." It's clear that some are heavily against whatever is going on in the Abraxas and wants to put a stop to it. At one point in the trailer, it's even mentioned that protests are occurring against the society. Anyways, that would explain why the guy had a sledgehammer. Obviously, he wanted to vandalize the building. But what about the mask? Well, initially I thought it was just to hide his identity, but now I think it means much more. I have two theories for this one. One being that you have to wear the mask while in the building as a member. Two being that this is the mask that the leader has to wear. Now, I don't know a lot about cults, but I could imagine it being common for all members to be wearing some sort of mask. Same goes for the leader, and I don't imagine it would be to hide identities because we know who is a member and who is the leader. Or do we? Guess we'll have to see on that one. One of the most interesting things about this is the fact that we can see Max Caulfield herself in the mask. Now, I don't think Max is the leader of this cult, but I know my nosy queen for sure put that thing on to get into the building and do some snooping. While showing us that Max can only rewind for a couple minutes at a time, we can see that she is inside the house. It appears to be a party going on of the sorts. We see this guy knocked out in a chair and people chatting outside. It might be hard to tell, but the people outside the window are actually also wearing masks. This leads me to believe that each member has to wear a mask in an all-black outfit. The black outfit point I noted from the first guy we saw in the mask and Max in the mask. They're both wearing complete black outfits with the mask on. Remember earlier when I mentioned how Max got into the Abraxas Society by solving Reggie's puzzle? Well, that's how she got the mask and got into the party in the first place. That was setting us up for the plot here in Reunion. In this 1-second clip, we also see Max walking in the mask with fire behind her. It's hard to make out if it's just a bonfire or if it's part of the main campus fire. Also to point out that Max sees herself in this house too. She's wearing the same outfit we saw her wearing in the mask clip. Was it actually Max or was it Safi? That's for another theory, but just thought it was interesting for it to happen in the same time frame. Before we jump into the theory half of this video, here are a few things that I found to be interesting while writing this, but didn't have a spot for it in this theory. Going back to the scene where we see Loretta and Max snooping around in the basement, according to their outfits, this is the same time frame where they're trying to escape a burning building. However, this is not the house we saw them in earlier. This is possibly Caledon. You can tell by the stained glass window and the push-enter doors, which that house likely does not have. There is another option for this, just being a church, which honestly, it does kind of give that vibe as well. We don't see much after the building starts to collapse, so perhaps this fire starts right after they explored the basement. After Max leaves the house, that's when Chloe shows up. This is the moment that Max sees Chloe for the first time in years. But how did Chloe know Max was going to be there? And why did she show up there anyway? This has to be a vision that Chloe had. We know Chloe is having these impossible memories and visions. I think it's safe to say that Chloe saw a vision of Max at the house and went to rescue her. But if Max leaves with Chloe, how do we see the scene of Max and Loretta in the burning building after snooping the Abraxas headquarters? You would think that they would explore the basement, the fire would start, and then they would escape. But Max would just leave Loretta? Sure, she might not be too fond of her, but Max would not just leave her there. Plus, it's clear that the fire is going on when Chloe arrives to rescue Max. You could tell by the sirens, Max's panic, and the ash in the air. So maybe the basement is not part of the house. Which I would find hard to believe, but I don't know. You guys let me know your thoughts on how that would play out. One last thing I wanted to mention is how similar the Abraxas Society is to the Vortex Club from the original Life is Strange. More so just that they are both school societies that have a dark history. Maybe they're connected in some way. I don't know, just thought that would be interesting to share. Now that we have all of the lore that we possibly can on Abraxas, here is my theory. I think the Abraxas Society was formed around these characters with powers, maybe even started by someone with a superpower. We don't know how long the society has been around, but I can imagine that it's been quite a while. Max was definitely not the first person to have powers. What if there was someone back in the day obsessed with the concept of having these powers? Imagine they did a bunch of rituals to cast powers onto people. Maybe the rituals didn't work, or so they thought. Maybe that's how all these characters, Max, Daniel, Alex, and Safi, all got their powers. What if they performed these rituals and it bestowed these powers upon random people in the world? That would explain how everyone got their powers in the first place. We never knew the origins of how anyone actually got these powers, so maybe when the rituals were performed, that's when it all started. Thomas Caledon is the founder of the school. There is a statue that we can see of him with 2 birds in the quad. It has a rather interesting and slightly unsettling plaque with a quote from him. The plaque reads, "A school that teaches art without science, or indeed science without art, can deal only in half-truths. In the same way, one cannot understand the darkness without first having been dazzled by the light." One cannot access the intricacies of what is without first pondering what might be. There is a duality theme to this. It references the balance of art and science and how specializing in only one area would provide you with a half-truth, which is similar to the meaning behind Abraxas, which is a union of opposites. I would not be surprised if Thomas Caledon was behind the cult that is the Abraxas Society. I do believe the society was formed a good while ago, so maybe it was when he founded the campus, which would have been around the mid-1900s. I think the campus was created to cover up something dark. What if his plan all along was to do research and to hold the secret society doing whatever cult stuff he wanted to do, but needed a cover up? So he built Caledon University, having everything he would need right at his fingertips, just like the observatory. Space, and maybe more specifically the moon, has been a big theme in Double Exposure. From stargazing, mentionings of asteroids striking the Earth, Max getting a migraine when she takes a picture of a full moon at the observatory. In the trailer for Reunion, we also see a clip of Max and Chloe in the dome of the observatory with a bunch of spatial animations occurring above them. If you remember the box Reggie gave Max, not only does it have Thomas Caledon on it, but it's also covered in space-related stuff, from constellations to moon phases and very unsettling wording. The writing found on the box is in Latin, and guys, I'm being so serious when I say I got chills when I translated it. There are two possible meanings from the translation. One being, the box you are holding is worrying, or the box you are holding is disturbing. My jaw dropped when I read that. The box has a lot of symbolism in itself. On one side of the box, you can see entwined snakes. Entwined snakes often represent duality and balance, similar to what I mentioned earlier about the meaning of the quote on Thomas Caledon's plaque regarding the need of balance between art and science. Remember what Thomas Caledon's statue looks like? He sits on a chair reading a book with two birds at his shoulders. These birds are presumed to be crows. Guess what the spiritual meaning behind two crows is? Duality and balance. The same theme we read from Thomas's quote and the same meaning behind the Abraxas Society. It's all connected. Remember the creepy house we saw in the Reunion trailer? Well, I believe that to be the house of Thomas Caledon. It would make sense for him to live by campus. Plus, we see the basement has a shrine and a seance circle. The house is very creepy and ominous, which helps my reasoning behind Thomas Caledon being a cult leader. Perhaps the fire started by a ritual someone was doing and it went wrong. Or maybe it went exactly how they wanted it to. Maybe they wanted to burn the campus down. Maybe someone was getting too close to their secrets that they decided to destroy everything. Maybe Thomas Caledon isn't even dead. Maybe he faked his own death. Or maybe he even came back from the dead when a certain someone merged timelines and changed history. We saw it happen with Chloe and all of Arcadia Bay. Why not bring Thomas Caledon back too? Perhaps he has some unfinished business he needs to attend to. We are going to take a slight detour from Thomas Caledon for a moment. Maya Okada. Sound familiar? Well, Maya was a student at Caledon. She and Safi were best friends. Maya had her work stolen from her by Professor Lucas Colmenero, which inevitably pushed her to take her own life. Not much is mentioned about Maya in Double Exposure. We know Yasmin was behind covering up the reasons that pushed her to the edge, and also got assistance from former friend of Maya, Vin, to say she had mental health issues, which we know he did just to get his job at the school. Safi also is not so innocent here. She knew Colmenero was plagiarizing her work when Maya was alive, but was pushed by Yasmin to keep quiet about it. Yasmin considers Maya a threat to Safi. During the scene where you meet with Yasmin at the cafe, Yasmin says Safi didn't even know Maya, which is a complete lie, because Safi's whole book is written about Maya. We can either confront her or go along with it. If you confront her, she gets quite upset for accusing her of lying. If you go along with it, she says Maya caused herself a great deal of pain. Yasmin didn't want Safi associated with Maya due to her reputation. We clearly know she is lying about Safi not even knowing Maya. but we don't know of this reputation that Yasmin mentions. This leads to her reason to order Gwen to cancel Safi's book deal. She didn't want the truth to come out, and didn't want Safi to know her own mother was partially to blame for the death of her best friend. You might be wondering why even bring Maya up in this video. Well, what if Max merging the timelines also brought Maya back? Maybe the plagiarism wasn't at the forefront of the reasons behind her taking her own life. What if she had powers and wants revenge? Revenge for how mistreated she was. In Double Exposure, while talking to Gwen, she mentions her and Safi were inseparable and compares them to twins from the movie The Shining. What if Maya and Safi used their powers together? Again, we don't know what Yasmin means about her supposed bad reputation, but going on the assumption that Yasmin was telling the truth here, it's possible they were using their powers together, causing mischief around campus. There is no mention of it, but what if Maya was part of the Abraxas Society? Maybe she had evil intentions, or maybe it was the society who pushed her to take her own life. Moving on from Maya Okada, what if this was all a trap to lure Max in? What if people we know were behind it? Maybe Yasmin was given this specific order to bring Max to Caledon. Hell, what if Yasmin herself even had powers? I could see this all being a scheme to get Max and take advantage of her. Whether that's studying her for research, or maybe they see Max as this sort of god. Remember Detective Alderman that we saw for like 2 minutes before he vanished into nothingness and never to be mentioned again? Well, he seemed to know a lot more about Max and her past in Arcadia Bay than anyone else at Caledon. I'm sure we will see his return in Reunion, but my point here is he might not be the only one to know of her past. It could be anyone here at Caledon. Heck, we could even see a return from anyone in the original Life is Strange. Maybe someone from her past at Arcadia Bay knew of her powers and followed her to Caledon. Who knows, maybe my King Samuel came from Caledon and escaped the Abraxas cult. He is very ominous and spiritually in touch, so I can see him being part of a cult. Earlier I mentioned the meaning behind the 2 birds on Thomas Caledon's statue. Those birds were crows. Think about whose spiritual animal in the Life is Strange universe is a crow. Chloe. Chloe is always symbolized as a crow. What if she is somehow connected to Thomas Caledon? What if this was all a trap to get Chloe to come to Caledon? Max's spirit animal is presumed to be an owl, which we often see throughout Double Exposure. What if the 2 birds on Thomas Caledon's statue weren't crows, but just a general representation of 2 birds? 2 birds. Max and Chloe. Maybe he or someone has a connection to Max and Chloe. Yeah, he might technically be dead, but 1, this is a theory about it being a cult, and 2, timelines are merged, which means anything is possible. So I don't think Thomas Caledon being a reason behind any of this is a crazy stretch. So to summarize, what if Thomas Caledon was a cult leader? What if Maya Okada was part of it? What if this was all a trap for Max and Chloe? What do you guys think? Do you think Abraxas is a cult? What do you think Thomas Caledon is hiding? Let me know in the comments below. All I know is Caledon is built on something really disturbing, and we barely scratched the surface of its truth. I had so much fun writing this video. It took a lot of research, so if you enjoyed, please give this video a like, and remember, not everything is what you think.